All right, we are going to be going over our review today, which is over the 5 themes of geography. So hopefully you have already watched the vocabulary video, which was posted previously before this video. And then we're just going to discuss a little bit more about the 5 themes of geography so you feel prepared to take your quiz on this tomorrow. So let's review. Remember, there are 5 themes. Each day throughout last week and as we continued on this week, we worked through these 5 themes. So one is location, another is place, another one is human environment interaction. We also had movement and regions. All right, so let's take a look at location first. When we talked about location, we talked a lot about absolute location and relative location. So right here it says absolute location is given in degrees of latitude and longitude. We talked about how when you are putting in a specific address, that is an absolute location because it tells you exactly where you are going. On the other hand of that, relative location is when you're using different landmarks to be able to tell somebody how to get somewhere. So for example, using relative location could be saying, to get to the park, you have to walk down that street, you have to go past the big oak tree, and around the fire station, that's where you'll find the park. So notice how I didn't give latitude and longitude lines, I didn't give an address, I used the landmarks in my own area to be able to explain that location. So location, again, is where it is located and why it is located there. Our next one we're looking at is place. And in place, we talked about different characteristics of what a place might look like. And to do that, we narrowed it into 2 of these smaller categories. And I'm going to change my marker here. We talked about physical characteristics and human characteristics. You guys did an activity where you looked at different pictures and had to pick out physical characteristics and human characteristics from those pictures. So for example, physical characteristics are landforms like mountains and plains. They're bodies of water like oceans and lakes. They are ecosystems like soil, plants, and animals, and the climate. So all these physical characteristics, think of these as things that humans did not create. Okay, so humans did not make these mountains. They did not make the plains. So think of the physical characteristics are items that you would look outside and think, oh, there's a tree. That is a physical characteristic. A human did not create that tree. Where in human characteristics, these are items that were created by humans. So for example, if you look outside and you see a paved road, that is a human characteristic of the place that you are at. So these can include bridges, roads, buildings, cultural language. All places have features that distinguish them from other places. So a place, again, is what it is like, maybe what it looks like, what it is like to actually be there. And we can break that down even more by looking at the physical and different human characteristics of that. Next, we have human environment interaction. So how do people interact with and change their environment, which we do every single day as humans. We are interacting with our environment. So for example here, I'm going to zoom in a little more. We have depend on the environment, adapt to our environment, and modify our environment. All different ways of how humans, specifically humans, interact with our environment. So if you look at this very small picture here, I know it's very blurry, I apologize, but that is a picture of a man on a tractor. This man is depending on the farming land of his environment in order to survive. So farmers farm the land and they grow plants and vegetables in order to help us survive. That's one way we depend on our environment. We might depend on our environment for water and other sources to keep us alive. Next, we have adapt to the environment. You can see here, this is a picture of an igloo, which would be found somewhere where the climate is very cold, where it is chilly, and then humans can adapt to that environment by building an igloo that could help keep them warm. And next, we have modify the environment. So how do we change our environment to make it better for us, to help us have an easier time living in that environment? So for example, there's this picture here and that is a bridge connecting two pieces of land. We have modified the environment so then we can easily access one area to the other. What I do want to talk about modifying the environment, that there is not a tiny picture here, I want to also say that humans can impact our environment in a negative way as well. So if you've ever heard of the word pollution, pollution are bad substances that is released into our world by humans. So pollutions could be something such as smoke from a building, the exhaust from your car. This is all harmful to our environment. So that is also a way, unfortunately, that we are modifying our environment. I want to talk about this next one here, which is movement. How are people and places linked by communication and the flow of people, ideas, and goods? So movement is all about moving our ideas, our traditions, our communication, transport. So I like down here it says transportation, communication, and trade. We might grow something here in the United States that can only be grown here because we have a perfect environment for it, where someone on the other side of the world, for example, in Africa maybe, they might not have that same resource to grow here. So we could trade our items for something that Africa has that does very well in Africa that can't do good here in North America. So we can trade our items. Patterns of movement patterns of movement such as migration. People move all over the world all the time. They are always moving to new places, coming to different countries. That is part of our movement here as migration. And then linkages and connections. So different types of connections. For example, this looks like a picture of a boat, I believe, carrying some items. So how are we using our different transportations to move and connect different places from around our world? Next, and our last one is regions. So regions, what are their unifying features and how do they form and change over time? Regions, a basic unit of geography study. Geographers divide the world into regions to help them interpret, and then regions can be defined on the basics of physical and human characteristics. So if you look at this picture here, I apologize, it's very small. We're going to look at a different picture that's a lot better here in just a moment. But regions are how we break up different areas of our different countries to basically say these areas are very similar. So for example, in Michigan, we live in what is called the Midwest. It contains several states that are located around us, and we just have similar characteristics, physical and human, in the area that we live. So they categorize us as the Midwest. As we continue to talk about regions, I want to look at this picture here because this does it a little better. I know you can't see the words here, but this is Australia. This is a picture of Australia. And Australia here is broken up into regions. So based on what these areas are, they have been divided up. Now, I'm not super familiar with Australia, but we could assume that maybe one area is divided up because it has a very rocky area. Maybe it doesn't have great farming land, where an area over here, this area might have great farmland. So that is how they divided up the regions of Australia. Like I said, I'm not familiar with those regions, but that's just another example. This picture up here for human environment interaction, like I spoke on below, this is a picture of what? What do you think? This is a picture of pollution. Yes, unfortunately, this truck is dumping some type of gunk, some slush pollution into our nice clean water. So that is a negative impact of human environment interaction, unfortunately. This picture here is showing us different coordinates on our maps that we found. So again, location, we can use our absolute location to find a specific spot, or we can use relative location to find a spot using landmarks. And this one is showing us absolute location. Another example of movement here. Wow, this is a very nice picture of a ship that has, if you were really to zoom in here, each of these boxes are shipping containers. They are huge. So this ship is carrying lots of goods, lots of supplies from one part of the world to our other part of the world, which is considered movement. And lastly, our place here. This is just a picture of our place up here. This is actually a spot in India. And place is just showing us a part of the human characteristics for this picture here. But we also see some of our physical characteristics as well. Think if you can pick out any. Can you pick out any? Let's start with human characteristics from this photo here. You can pause the video if you need more time here. So yes, we have a very large building out in front. That would be a human characteristic. But in the back, we have some bushes and some grass, which would be part of our physical characteristics there. So that is part of place. All right, I hope you enjoyed your quick review of our 5 themes of geography. Hopefully you really paid attention and this will be beneficial to your quiz tomorrow. Good luck and study hard.